Well, good evening.
Hi, Tim. It's been a while, possibly a few years, so I think it's time to finally look at a Stand to Reason video again. You probably don't remember Tim Barnett from such videos as Only Christians Can Choose Not to Take Vengeance, which I made in 2017. And the reason you probably don't remember him is because he's the one nobody remembers. People remember this guy, but unfortunately this time I'm settling for Tim.
My name's Tim Barnett, and I am a speaker with Stand to Reason, and it is so good to be with you, at least virtually.
Which means, by the way, that he's talking to a big empty room. Keep that in mind.
I want to start out by thanking Chris and the folks at Rethinking Hell for organizing this conference and inviting me to speak.
Rethinking Hell is who put this conference together. I don't know why you'd need to rethink a fundamental concept of your religion based on eternal, unchanging ideas and realities. Actually, never mind, I do know why. The answer is marketing. Sorry for the spoiler, but I just wanted to get that out of the way.
I think it's great. Unfortunately, I can't be with you. I mean, the border, they won't let me cross. And so we got the next best thing, and that's doing this kind of virtually. Let's get into this. I want to start with a question. Have you ever had a young kid ask you...
Hold on now. See, this is why I told people to keep in mind that you're doing this virtually. Presenting in front of a camera in a big empty room. Watch again where the eyes go. Pay attention to who he's talking to or which direction he's talking to.
Have you ever had a young kid ask you a question and you have absolutely no idea what they're talking about?
You might have thought at one point there that he was looking at another camera, but that's not true. It cuts to the camera from roughly that angle, and he's not looking at that either. He's pretending to talk to people who aren't there. I suppose it's possible maybe that Greg or somebody is sitting off in that direction and he's talking to them. Maybe. But it kind of seems like he's doing that thing that speakers do when they look at random people in the audience, except there's no people in the audience for him to be looking at. Look, I'm acknowledging you. I'm talking straight to you, person who's not there. I don't want to make too much of it. It's just kind of disconcerting.
This happened to me a few years ago. We were celebrating my wife's birthday, and my daughter, Juliana, who was 6 at the time, she gets a very quizzical look on her face, and she says, "Dad, what's a 1-2 smell like?"
This is gonna be a whole story, isn't it? Probably to lead you to some simple, obvious point that you could have just said outright in the first place. Yeah, I can smell those a mile off at this point. All right, let's fast forward through this then.
You look like a monkey and you smell like one too. So what's a 1-2 smell like? Now here's the point. It's easy for people to talk past each other.
Oh, thank you, Tim. I never would have understood what you meant if you hadn't told me that boring story.
We often bring unstated assumptions, ambiguous beliefs, undefined terms into our conversations.
Yeah, so of course I agree that if you're using some term where you think there might be some ambiguity or misunderstanding, you should define what you mean by it so that everyone in the conversation is on the same page. So good job, you convinced me. Speech over then?
We don't know what's going on inside the other person's head. And all of this can make communication hard.
Aw, shucks. I don't like things that are hard. How can we fix talking, Tim? Should we all talk like this to each other?
Now, by the way, this also makes the job of doing apologetics really difficult.
Apparently we should, and that will make communication less difficult.
One challenge that is particularly difficult to defend against is the doctrine of hell.
It does tend to be especially difficult to play defense when you're defending the indefensible, yes.
And it's actually pretty obvious to see why. No one likes hell.
That's not why. The reason why is that your assertion that God allows people to go to hell contradicts everything else you say about your God. You're either full of shit about what you think about hell, or you're full of shit about what you think about God, or both. It's the most blatant contradiction and the most despicable component of your entire religion. The mere inclusion of it in your religion makes your God a monster, and your defense of it makes you a monster. And then you'll go on and talk about God's love and forgiveness, and all the wonderful things he's done, and how much love there is in your religion, and piss and moan about all the people who don't see all of this as loving just because you insist that it is. It's nothing about liking hell. If you had, say, a loving God that you said was not all-powerful, did not set up the system to work this way, did not create hell, knowing full well that people would go there and who would go there, and that he had every power to save them but just didn't want to. If that was the kind of God you had, it wouldn't be a problem. People still wouldn't like hell, but it would not undermine your entire religion. If hell was just some feature of the universe that was unavoidable, and God desperately wanted to change it and erase it from existence, but he was just too weak, or if it was just too stupid or ignorant to realize hell was a problem, or for that matter, if you even believed in an evil God, and you said, I'm sorry, but we really have to serve this evil monster to save ourselves, and there's really nothing we can do about it, that still would not poke holes in your religion. It'd be kind of a miserable, depressing religion, but I don't think anyone would really blame you for that. At that point, you would just be reluctantly following it out of terror. But at least what you say would be internally coherent. Whether your God existed or not, at least you wouldn't be contradicting yourself every time you open your mouth.
It's like trying to get your kids to eat broccoli, right? And by the way, do you know the difference between broccoli and boogers?
You know what, dude? The fact that you believe in hell, you believe some people listening to you right now are going to go there, possibly a lot of people listening, and then the fact that you're standing there with a shit-eating grin telling jokes is kind of goddamn distasteful. It's like you're giving a speech about who's going to go to the death camps and doing a comedy bit in the middle. Except worse, to be honest. The death camps end at some point. You really don't give a shit at all about other people, do you?
Kids won't eat broccoli, okay? Okay, that's a bad dad joke there.
Ha 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 ha, you make me sick.
In the Handbook of Christian Apologetics, philosopher Peter Kraft, he says this: of all the doctrines in Christianity, hell is probably the most difficult to defend, the most burdensome to believe, and the first to be abandoned.
Good. I mean, I'd rather people toss the whole thing out, but I'll take what I can get. Christianity minus hell is a definite improvement, and harder to argue against. At least it doesn't just fall apart immediately as soon as you glance at it. At least you have to put a little bit of thought into it.
I think Kraft is right on all counts. So here's my question. How do we defend the doctrine of hell?
Why do you want to? I think is the better question. Don't get me wrong, I understand that you think it's true, and I think that people should believe what they think is true, preferably based on good reasons, of course, but ultimately you're stuck believing what you think is true, and if you think you have good reasons and you want to get into an argument about it, more power to you. But when you describe your belief as difficult to defend and burdensome to believe, that doesn't sound like what somebody would say if they thought they had good reasons. If your idea is especially complex or complex to prove, then sure, I guess you could say it's difficult to defend just in the sense that it takes some amount of work to put together your defense. But I don't think a person who's truly confident that they have solid reasons for their beliefs would call them burdensome to believe. That makes it sound like you're having trouble even keeping yourself believing it. And of course, when this guy says it's difficult to defend, he's not talking about it being an ultra-complex scientific mathematical endeavor. He's not talking about how difficult it is to write some paper that definitively, inarguably establishes the reality of hell. More likely, by difficult to defend, he means it's contradictory and horrible. And you agree, and I agree. Why defend it? And the other thing is, I don't think it's even about defending the reality of it, is it? It's about defending how it lines up with God's love, how it does not spit in the face of everything else your religion claims to believe. It's about defending its fairness, its goodness, its compatibility with lovingness. And when you start doing that, like I said, I think it makes you a monster, as demonstrated quite well by the smiling and the laughing and the jokes. This should be a somber topic. This should not be something that you're entertained by, that you're trying to entertain people about. The word hell, or any concept related to it, if you really believe it and if you're anything like a caring person, should not cross your lips without you fucking breaking down in tears. And yet,
there are obstacles that keep people from fully embracing the gospel, okay? I call these gospticles. All right, everybody say gospticles.
Ha ha ha, you made up a funny word while you're talking about the worst thing imaginable. Tim, you so quirky.
There you go. It's hard to say, okay? Hope you had your mask on because you probably were spitting all over the place, okay? It's not a real word, so don't look it up. But what do you think a gospel is?
It's what your head looks like.
Well, it's an obstacle of the gospel, okay? An obstacle of the gospel.
Close enough.
Now, I think one of the toughest gospels out there is hell, okay?
Probably. You're talking about people who believe in Christianity but have some problems with some of the stuff in it. In this case, hell. And there certainly are a lot of Christians out there who do not believe in hell. Now, personally, I think just dropping hell out of the belief system and continuing on believing the rest of it is a bit goofy. But like I said, I'd rather they do that than start defending hell, because it shows probably one of two things. Either they recognize that they have some problems, some circles to square, between the characterization of their God as all-loving and just and all-powerful and all-knowing, and the belief in hell, which is good. Being able to spot one contradiction is better than being able to spot none. Or they just can't bring themselves to believe in a God so evil that it would operate in such a way. But they still want to keep on believing in the God. They can't break themselves out of that, so they just drop the hell part, and at least their conscience is clean. At least they don't have to justify to themselves why the eternal torture of billions of other people is a good thing. Whichever reason they have, these are people I'll have a much easier time getting along with than your kind of person who just keeps on believing it and treats it as a joke. Every time I come back to this subject, my blood starts boiling again. Why are people so flippant about this? Like, I'm flippant about it at times, but I don't believe it's real. Nothing's gonna happen. You're fine. And sometimes I'll even make dark jokes about bad things that actually do happen. But that's with the implicit acknowledgement that it's not a good thing. The joke hinges on the fact that it's a bad thing, and potentially that the joke teller knows they sound like a callous dickhole when they do it. The humor is in how awful the thing that person just said was, and they know it and the listeners are supposed to know it. When people do that kind of humor, they're not trying to justify what's going on. And if they are, what the hell? But if I was doing what Tim was doing here, if I actually thought the bad thing was going to happen, was currently happening, and I thought there was no problem with it, I was explicitly doing apologetics trying to excuse it away, I spent my career trying to big up the guy that I thought was doing it, and you caught me cracking jokes about boogers while I'm talking about it, totally oblivious to how callous that makes me sound, what would you think of me? I would hope that you would not think well of me. It's such a common attitude. I don't understand how people are able to do this. How people are able to think like this about other people. How they can care not at all about anyone. I kind of avoid making too many videos about this specific aspect of religion because every time I do, I get into a big angry rant and it just becomes a whole thing. And I didn't even plan to do this in this video. I planned to talk about what he's trying to do, which is find an alternative way to talk about hell that doesn't actually mention hell. The title of the video is Bringing Up Final Judgment Without Raising Hell. He's trying to give people a way to talk around it and basically just be dishonest about it. And that was what I planned to talk about, but I mean, I can't help it. What am I supposed to do? I cannot express to you how disgusted this entire thing makes me. Right down to the core. It's just wrong. It's as wrong as it gets. But I guess all I can do is just deal with the fact that this is how a lot of people think about people like me. Just so you know, Tim, despite that, the feeling is not mutual. If I thought something horrible was going to happen to you, I would not be chuckling about it. Fuck you.
For example, listen to the laundry list of gospels from former Hillsong worship leader Marty Sampson. Okay, this is what he cites for the reason why he left the faith. This was on Instagram, and he says,
I'm not going to let you read this all to me in the voice you'd use to speak to a child, so I'll read it instead. This is a soapbox moment, so here I go. How many preachers fall? Many. No one talks about it. How many miracles happen? Not many. Understatement of the century. No one talks about it. Why is the Bible full of contradictions? No one talks about it. How can God be love, yet send 4 billion people to a place, all 'cause they don't believe? Oh, Marty, he doesn't. It's far more than 4 billion. No one talks about it. Okay, Tim, go on with whatever point you wanted to make.
Now, these are gospels. And actually, we're talking about this issue right here, okay? We're going to talk about this hell issue. How about this one? Green Bay Packers,
Okay, so you're just bringing up quotes from random people who disagree with your religion now? We already got the point, Tim. The hell issue is a sticking point. Explain why it's a sticking point and get to the point. Or maybe you just had to fill an hour. I'll read the quote, I guess. I don't know how you can believe in a god who wants to condemn most of the planet, to a fiery hell. Like, what type of loving, sensitive, omnipresent, omnipotent being wants to condemn most of his beautiful creation to a fiery hell at the end of all this? Yep.
Now, we could start responding to these challenges. I think they're not worded properly, and there's some faulty assumptions built in here.
Let me guess. God doesn't condemn you to hell. You condemn yourself.
But before we get there, I just want you to see that part of our job is to address these obstacles to the faith.
Please do. Frankly, the more people try to mount a defense about hell, the better it is for me. I don't have to rip your mask off if you rip it off yourself. Metaphorical mask, of course. Please, put a literal mask on, because I can't stand looking at your writhing human lips. Ugh. I honestly don't know why people want those things on TV all the time. They just look like two worms fucking each other. Have some modesty, some self-respect. Cover it up.
We ought to make things easier for people to accept the gospel, not harder, okay? And so how do we do that? Point number one, watch your language. Watch your language. If you want to be strategic, start watching your language. That is, stop using the H word.
Right, and that's the central point of this speech, isn't it? I mean, you do talk about a lot of other stuff, and I will be addressing that as well. But at least sort of the main topic that you want to talk about is the word hell didn't test well with focus groups. Let's not say it anymore. Right? Non-Christians or new Christians are kind of put off by this whole hell concept. They find it a little bit distasteful that God would do such a thing. So when we want to threaten them into terrified acceptance of our belief system, let's say the exact same thing. Let's say, hey, you're heading for a world of pain if you don't accept my religion, but just not use the name of the thing that we mean. I suppose I'm getting ahead of the conversation a little bit because I know where this goes. Go ahead.
Some words carry with them so much baggage that they cease being helpful in our conversations.
No, Tim, no. The word is not what carries the baggage. The idea is what carries the baggage. You're going to propose here shortly that we use the term final judgment instead of the term hell, despite the fact that what you mean doesn't change at all. What you think happens doesn't change at all. And it's not like you're watching some movie you've never seen before where there's going to be a twist, like in The Dark Knight Rises where they spend the whole movie calling the guy John Blake, and then at the end it's like, my name's Robin. And everyone goes, ooh, I didn't see that coming. I didn't know that's what this was about. No, everybody knows this movie. You can call it hell, you can call it final judgment, you can make up a brand new word. It doesn't matter, everyone knows what you're talking about. Maybe if it was some denomination of Christianity where they didn't even believe in hell, or they believe you go there and it's just kinda fine, no big deal, maybe then people would be like, okay, wait a second, what do you actually mean? But your ministry has been abundantly clear about what's meant here. I've made videos about that several times, and that's only scratching the surface of all the times that you've talked about it. I don't know about you personally, I don't really remember who says what, but certainly Stand to Reason Ministries in general has been very, very clear. This is a conversation you've been having for years. You can change the terminology halfway through, but people are just going to ask, what do you mean by that? And then the conversation is the same conversation it always was. At least I hope they will. I guess maybe some people wouldn't if they're incredibly gullible. I guess that is the target audience. Anyway, I'm definitely going to come back to this, but I'm going to cut it here for now. Thank you all very much for watching. Before you go, please do give the video a like and click subscribe if you haven't. Huge thanks to all of my supporters on every platform. For early access to videos, sign up to my email list at list.logicked.com, and I'll see you next time.